Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to another oilfieldbasics.com video blog. My name is Derek Craig. If this is the first time watching one of our videos, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you guys like this channel. If you want to see more of these types of videos explaining basic components or processes of the oil and gas industry, please be sure to subscribe to this channel. Also, please don't be afraid to leave feedback. Leave any comments. If there's a topic you want to see addressed, please drop it in the comments below. And of course, like the video, share it with a friend. All that helps out. And of course, check out oilfieldbasics.com for instructional, helpful courses. Getting started with oil and gas and ties everything. We have a course that ties all of the upstream oil and gas industry activities together for you in logical manner. So everything from drilling to completions to production and everything in between, all the big things, it's in the course. So check that out. That's available at our website. And also check out our podcast. It's the oilfieldbasics.com Discover podcast. And check it out on your favorite podcasting platform. Every single one of those episodes, we have somebody different from a different part of the industry explaining their expertise on that topic, getting us caught up to speed on that topic. So it's a very educational platform. One of our sayings here is never stop learning. So without further ado, today we're going to be talking about why we flare. All right, so when I'm talking about why we flare, I'm primarily going to be talking about in the upstream sector of the industry. So with that said, there's a couple different categories I want you to think about all this. So all of this is either going to fall under either a quick release of pressure, so kind of an emergency situation, or a temporary situation. So temporary, and there's long-term flaring. So something that will only last for maybe a couple hours or maybe a couple days compared to something that is meant for more of a permanent solution, okay? So let's talk about the temporary first. So on the temporary side of things, again, connecting that to the idea of a quick release of pressure, okay? So on the drilling side, so whenever we're drilling a well and we get a kick, an unexpected kick, right? We got to get rid of that gas. We got to get it out of our system. We don't want to blow up the rig, right? So we've got to send it to the flare stack, okay? So the returns from the rig go through what we call a gas buster, gets sent to the flare stack, okay? So again, quick release of pressure. The other side of things, on the production side, so production facility. So your well's in production, you've got a facility there. Maybe you are blowing it down, so you're getting ready for some preventative maintenance or something with the facility. You need to blow it down. You're getting rid of that. You've got a higher volume you got to get rid of quickly. Maybe you're going to flare that off. Maybe you are going to purge a system to try and get it ready for production. Again, you've got to get rid of that gas, and in a reasonable amount of time at a higher volume too. So another thing you might see on more of a processing facility, so more of a centralized facility, if they have an emergency shutdown event, something triggers the shutdown or whatever, sometimes that sends the gases in the system. And again, it depends on the facility, right? But sometimes the gases will get sent to the flare stack to be burnt off. Maybe you don't want that trapped gas in your pipes, right, between shut valves. Maybe you want to just get rid of it. Or maybe a critical part of maybe a vapor recovery system goes down. And so again, you don't want to just vent the gas, you want to get rid of it, you want to burn it off, because obviously that's going to be safer if the gas has already been burnt, it's not capable of exploding. So those are the kind of the things that we're going to be talking about with the temporary quick release of pressure kind of things, okay? You'll also see this on production wells if you got a service rig on them. And again, you want to blow down the entire well before you start opening up the wellhead, or actually, accessing the tubing in the well or whatever. Maybe you're going to pull and replace tubing or replace a downhole tool. Sometimes you literally have to blow all the pressure off the well. Again, you're going to want to burn that gas off, okay? Another thing might be maybe you're unloading a well, and in a similar situation there. You want to get rid of that gas. High volume, high pressure, you want to get rid of it in a very safe and effective manner. So, flaring, okay? The other side of things is when it's kind of more of an ongoing solution, okay? So this is primarily on the production side of things. So one of the more common ones where it's very prominent is going to be when there's no pipeline. So we see this in West Texas, we saw this in North Dakota. So it's typically going to be the oil plays, right? Because if it's a gas play, you want to recover that gas. So you wouldn't really drill a well if there wasn't a gas line there. Anyways, so in these types of basins where there's not a pipeline, you're after the oil anyways, and you've got a lot of gas that you have to deal with. So you're going to flare it off, right? If you don't have a pipeline to put it into, you're not going to vent it, you're going to flare it. It's better for the environment, better for everybody's safety. You're going to flare it. Also, well tests. So and this can happen, I've seen this in just gas plays too. You want to know how that well is going to produce before you decide whether or not to bring the infrastructure to it. So bringing the pipeline, there's a cost to do that. So to connect into a pipeline, there's a cost to do that, right? So you have to determine whether or not it's worth it. So maybe you'll have what we call a well test. You'll literally produce the well. The liquids will go into temporary tanks. The gas you'd flare off. Again, that's just to get an idea of how that well is going to produce. Then you can run the economics on it and see whether or not you want to continue with the production of that well and actually build out the facility and the infrastructure, or whether you say, let's move on. The other side of things, on the production, more long-term stuff, low pressure gas. So I just shot a video on vapor recovery units, so it's kind of the opposite of that. So that low pressure vapor that we talked about in that video, you're actually going to burn it off as opposed to recovering it and having the money in on the compressors to compress it into the gas sales line pressure. So hopefully that all makes sense, but a lot of this comes back to regulatory entity that you're under and also economics and safety too, right? So obviously it's better to burn the gas or combust it versus naturally vent it, right? So we can all agree on that. The rest of this comes in under economics and regulatory, okay? So that's going to decide whether you're flaring, how much you're flaring, or whether you're using a combustor. Combustor is basically a flare, just typically a smaller rate, and it's more of a complete burn, okay? So some states require combustors as opposed to flares. Anyways, without getting into all that, the regulatory entity, some states will not let you burn off much gas, okay? So some states will. So let's take Midland, for example, or the Permian Basin, right? Where we got a lot of gas being produced, but they're after the oil, that's why they're there. Depending on the regulatory entity, and Texas was one of the states that are more liberal with the amount that you can burn off in terms of your gas. So you might be able to flare a lot more and get away with not having a pipeline. In a state like Colorado or the Appalachian area is pretty strict on this too. You probably will not be able to flare long term. You might be able to do like the well test or something like that, or temporary relief, but to flare long term, they're not going to let you do that. So if you're in a situation like that, again, it all just comes back to economics. If they don't have a pipeline there and you're not allowed to burn, a whole lot of gas off, then they're going to be forced into waiting until they can connect into a pipeline to produce that well. Again, that all goes back to economics though. If they're being forced where they can't flare off the gas and they have to connect to a pipeline, maybe the economics aren't there to where it's worth the expense of connecting to the pipeline to sell your gas for basically nothing, right, in some of these basins. So it all just goes back to regulation and economics, as well as safety as to why we flare. So hopefully that video helped. If you have any questions left, please drop it in the comments. Maybe I can add a part 2 to this video or something. This is definitely a very broad topic, and it's going to differ from state to state, again, based on your regulatory environment. But these are just some of the basic reasons and scenarios in which companies flare.